Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. How does Christian Wood fit with the Lakers on and off the court? And what are the most intriguing training camp battles? All that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Making Locked On Lakers your first listen every day, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with a community of nearly 21,000 subscribers, be a part of a really cool, respectful, funny group of Laker fans who cannot wait for training camp to start. Leave your questions in the YouTube comments section. Hit us up on Twitter at CanBrothers or email us, KamenetskyBrothers@gmail.com. We love to use your voices in the show. Today's episode, by the way, brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. And with that housekeeping out of the way, we bring in our guest, Dan Woike. You know his awesome coverage of the Lakers in the LA Times for years. Friend of the show. For some reason, Brian can never seem to be here when Dan pays us a visit. Brian,
is he battling an infection? Does he need a Jace case?
No,
I was going to say, I can think of some NBA players who that might be handy for.
Hey-o!
I can think of some guys I've covered over the years.
Didn't realize the show would be going blue today. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. There's some players who could use a Jace case. We'll leave it at that. And by the way, beginning with a certain player, I want to make it clear. We're not talking about Jace case with this guy. This is just where we're starting the show. I want to begin with Christian Wood because, Dan, you wrote for the LA Times a little while ago what I wouldn't say was the definitive the Lakers shouldn't sign Christian Wood article, because I don't think that's an accurate depiction, but it may have been the definitive here's why other teams have experienced issues with Christian Wood, make up your own minds article. We talked about it before they signed Christian Wood. He has since now been inked. With that in mind, what, if anything, have you heard about the relationship and the dynamic between Wood and the Lakers since he's joined the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been positive so far. You've got a coach in Darvin Ham. Christian Wood mentioned it that, Darvin Ham was on his phone a lot this summer. It's funny. I saw Darvin in Las Vegas during Team USA minicamp and was sort of like, what's going on with Christian Wood? This is before he signed. He's like, oh, yeah, that reminds me, I need to call him today. And it was sort of like, so I think, it's off to a good start. The questions with Christian Wood, I think, it isn't necessarily first impressions. I mean, it's funny, that piece was like, basically what I was trying to explain, Andy, was sort of like, let's all take a deep breath. There's a reason why he's available now. Like, where's the disconnect, right? Like, where is the talent says he shouldn't be? The market says he should be. Like, let's fill in that space. And I think one of the things in talking to people around the Lakers and people who were fans of the signing around the NBA, and there are definitely detractors too. But what the fans would say is they'll say, you're getting Christian Wood at the perfect time. First of all, you're paying him nothing. So it's incredibly low risk, right? Like, he does have an option for the second season. But if you need to, for some reason, waive and stretch a minimum contract, that's not going to be the end of your books. Like,
I don't even know if you can do that.
Yeah, you can, but it'll be like there's no real point in doing it, right?
It feels simpler just to let it bleed out.
Just run it out. Yeah, just ride it out, right? Like, if you're up against the hard cap next year, that's one less minimum player you can sign, basically. So I think that, like, people view it as pretty low risk. You're also getting Christian Wood at a time when, with one of the knocks on him has always been like that he is very shout out, but he believes he's a very good player, right? Which is great. You want that. You also want people, though, who know their place in the league too and know what they need to do on winning teams. And there's been some disconnect with that. So you're getting him at a time when I don't want to, humbled isn't the right word, but like the market should have told him something that, like he needs to re-up his value. And this is like there is track record for this with the Lakers. Malik Monk did it 2 years ago. Dennis Schroeder did it last year. He's in prime position to do that with the Lakers this year. And then I think lastly, like when you just sort of look at the low risk and stuff like that, like he's going to have opportunity. I don't think anybody expects Anthony Davis to play 82 games. I don't think anybody expects LeBron James to play 82 games. There are going to be nights where the Lakers need points and Christian Wood can get you buckets. Like he is a scorer. He is a skilled offensive player when it comes to putting the ball in the basket. And there are going to be nights the Lakers need that. The questions still for me are like, what does he do on the nights when they don't? Can he fill in those other gaps? Can he fill in the rebounding gap? Can he block enough shots? He's not going to lock people down defensively. That's not his game. But can he be functional in your team defense? Can he play hard in transition? Can he hit open shots in the corner? I was on Spectrum the other night. We were talking about it, and it's like I'm not a huge X's and O's guy, but like you can really easily imagine a LeBron James, Anthony Davis pick and roll with Christian Wood sitting in the corner, and that giving you three very high octane options.
It's interesting you say that, just because like a big talking point we've had really, I guess, in the Christian Wood era, if we want to call it that.
It's been a fun 3 weeks.
But the idea of whether he should start or come off the bench, and the thing that I've been pretty adamant about it in thinking he should be off the bench, but in a very important role, is I think it will be very difficult to play him, LeBron, and AD extended minutes together, just because I think it puts LeBron in a bad defensive position, having to guard more wings or having to reconfigure your defense in ways to try to avoid putting LeBron in that position in ways that I'm not sure are really worth it. But A, do you expect him to start or come off the bench?
Come off the bench.
Okay.
All right, I'll be quick on that one. I think he's coming off the bench. I mean, I think part of the reason they signed him was to be a part-time starter. That of the guys that were available at that center position, he was by far the most equipped to start 25 games, should it be necessary. That his skills best fit that role. I think, and we'll get to this later. I think they've got 4 starters pretty locked in, and I think there's a battle for the 5th, and it's not Christian Wood.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're predicting LeBron, AD, D'Lo, Austin as the 4 starters. Small forward, TBD.
Yeah, and I think that'll either be Torian Prince or Rui Hachimura. Probably would be my guess. It'd be one of those 2 players. I've heard some really good Torian Prince stuff so far. I think he's had kind of a funny career, but like he started a playing game against the Lakers last year and made every shot in that game.
He did. Yes, he did.
And is a guy, who actually has some of these Christian Wood things to his sort of rep, in the sense that he was always a guy who was a very confident player. Could he accept a role? These were questions that have been asked about him at times throughout his career. It stops in Atlanta and Brooklyn and things like that. But I think he really settled into something last year. And, again, in this situation, it's a lot easier to accept roles when you're accepting them around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, I think, for guys. And, you're doing it on the Lakers. Those guys are going to have whoever it is in that position, is going to have a real opportunity. I mean, look, Jared Vanderbilt started in that role last year too. I think it'd be foolish to not consider that an option. I just think that they have got some other two-way kind of options, that'll get a look too.
All right, that actually leads to what I wanted to get to next, which is some of the training camp battles that you find most interesting heading into what I think is going to be a very exciting training camp. So we will get into that coming up next. But first, let you know, Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Jace Medical. And if the last few years with the pandemic, various natural disasters, other unforeseen emergencies have taught us anything, it's that we should expect the unexpected. Everyone should feel empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones when it feels like the world has gone sideways. And that's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have that medication in hand. Jace Medical, simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation. I've done it. It's super easy, super quick. Licensed pharmacy medication delivery, ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. You can save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the code LOCKEDON at the checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, so we were just talking about that small forward TBD training camp. And first of all, I think Torian Prince is a guy that has kind of gone under the radar.
Under the radar, yep.
This offseason. Like, he brings a dimension. Like, before we even get into some of the specifics of these training camp battles, he brings a dimension they have been missing the last few years with a true wing-sized guy who is a proven three-point shooter. Like, if Torian Prince can't hit threes this coming season, like, the Lakers need to really consider getting rid of, like, the dark lighting inside Crypt, like, because
it feels like they've had a lot of guys like Torian Prince that are like 40% shooters that come to the Lakers and just can't shoot anymore.
Because he's got a track record. Like, he is a really good he's not JJ Redick, but he's a good outside shooter. And I think, like, at that size, that's a dimension in and of itself. And, and a proven NBA rotation player, they haven't had a guy like that in a few years.
Yeah, I just pulled up his numbers. 38.5% since 2021 from 3 on 3.5 attempts. I will say, he has not been a starter. He's been a part-time player. He's had injuries that have certainly been a part of this. And I think that's part of his story too. And that'll be something I think the Lakers consider when it comes to this. I do think that they want to be consistent, right? Like, especially after all their talk last year about continuity and lack thereof. I think whether it's as a starter, and I think one of the advantages to a player like Torian Prince, or like a vet like him too, is that he's a guy that can start and not necessarily not close too. Mm-hmm. And you can live with that, right? Like, cause there'll be games where they certainly close with 3 guards. You know what I mean? I think that's, that would make sense a lot of nights as a closing lineup, right? Is Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, LeBron, and AD. That's like the money would tell you.
I can hear, by the way, a lot of our listeners, our viewers, groaning right now. Let's just remind people: not all 3 guard lineups are created equally or as disastrously. Well, Reaves, D'Lo, and Vincent are not the same thing as Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverley, Lonnie Walker. Or Beverly, Russ, Reaves,
or even Schroeder. I mean, like, Gabe Vincent is a bigger player, right? Yep. Like, more physical and stuff like that too. But I think, like, that'll be one of the things. It's not really a training camp battle, but one of the things that I'm just curious about as we see is, like, what do some of these groupings look like? You know what I mean? Like, I think we all know, like, who the 3 are on this team, right? And that's LeBron, AD, and I think Austin Reaves has established himself as a guy who will be in almost every version of their closing lineups, provided he's healthy. There he is. I think, do they look at Gabe Vincent? Do they look at D'Angelo Russell in those situations? What about Rui Hachimura? One of the things with Rui, when they unlocked him, you talked to people behind the scenes, and it was that they gave him a consistent role, and that role happened to be coming off the bench too, by the way. And that was the consistency, and there were more shots and there was more time there for him, and he thrived in that. So do you risk changing that by having him stand around and spot up shoot with the starters?
This is why I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, like media or fans, when it comes to predicting this upcoming season, they've got Rui penciled in as a starting small forward. And I get it. And, I've heard that he's, slimmed down a little bit, maybe in anticipation of playing more in that position, if nothing else. Mm-hmm. And I understand it, like, in terms of the money, but the way I look at it is you want to get $17 million worth of value out of him. how you get it in certain respects doesn't matter as long as it works. I tend to think you get more out of Rui if he's coming off the bench and can be in more of a featured scoring role. I've been kind of, lobbying's too strong because nobody at the organization cares what I think, but I've been really lobbying for the idea of Jared Vanderbilt as the starting three, just because I think that defensive versatility gives them a lot of options to open games and like to take some of that heat to begin halves off LeBron, off Reaves, off, AD as the back line, just in terms of like the toughest perimeter assignment that you don't want to automatically put either on LeBron or AD, or just start stressing AD as that back line.
Teams don't guard you the same way as they do in the playoffs either, right? Like teams generally do more of like what we do, it is what coaches will say in the regular season. So, some of those deficiencies, like where, teams will just funnel the ball to Jared Vanderbilt in the corner, possession after possession and dare him to shoot. That won't happen as much in the regular season. And, I think lower pressure, lower situations, maybe that's not a bit. I think it's under consideration. I really do. The two names that I had heard were first and foremost were Prince and were Hachimura. But I think you're right, Andy. I mean, I do think there's a really good argument to make. Again, by the way, continuity, something new, like that was a very good starting lineup for you, heading into the postseason and through most of the playoffs.
Yeah, the other thing I'm really interested to see is the backup too, because it feels to me like they are counting on it being Max Christie. And I've heard a lot of optimism. I know he played extremely well in the summer league and progressed in the way that you want to see a young second-year player.
Played really well in the G League last year too.
Yes. What have you heard in terms of confidence about him or potential role for him? Because if it's not him, then it starts becoming, I think, very fuzzy who plays that role alongside Vincent, assuming it isn't just a 3-guard rotation.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could be a 3-guard rotation, and then, because of LeBron's sort of on the ball presence too, you could kind of work some more stuff with your wings. You could play bigger. But no, I think the opportunity is there for Max Christie. I think it's clear, right? I mean, it wasn't like Lonnie Walker went and got a big offer somewhere else. I believe he signed for the minimum.
I'm pretty sure he did too.
And one of the reasons why a player like that who is well liked would do that is because there's more opportunity for him somewhere else. And I think they are incredibly high on Max Christie. Higher than I think some scouts believe, but then you talk to other people who look at him and it's just like, this is like what an NBA guard looks like, right? Like he's more athletic than you think he is. One of the knocks on him coming into college was that, he wasn't that tough. Well, he played at Michigan State and physically got after it. And then you'd watch him as a rookie. If people want to go back and look at a game, they played Washington in LA and he guarded Bradley Beal for chunks of that game and looked completely competent. Like he didn't shut him down, but it wasn't like, oh, Bradley Beal's being guarded by this 18-year-old kid. Like it didn't look like that, which is promising. I think he's a worker. He's about the right stuff. And he's very mature, very confident kid. So I think they have a lot of belief in him. I know Darvin Ham thinks highly of Cam Reddish. Saw him in a playoff series, when Cam Reddish was with the Hawks. Look, I think a lot of teams have been high on Cam Reddish, only to be proven wrong.
He's a lot like Christian Wood right now at this period, where like he's in a new situation where like it doesn't matter from the Lakers' perspective where he was drafted, the hype on him, but he's also, I don't know where his minutes are going to come, but if nothing else, if he can prove that he's somebody who has the right attitude about being a part of a team that matters, even that I think could help him reputationally.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like it'll be hard. I don't see like a crazy direct line of minutes for him. He's going to have to earn them, and that's hard. That's really, really hard to do, especially when you're a player who's been a little inconsistent, because that's the way you earn minutes is you become reliable, so maybe through injuries or something like that, a doorway opens for him. I mean, he's going to get a look like the preseason will be very important for him. I think the preseason will be very important for Jackson Hayes.
Oh yeah.
Similarly, as a guy who, can lay claim to some of those center minutes. I think, it's going to be an interesting question when we talk about Christian Wood and this stuff is like, I do think there is an opportunity for a role there for him, but I do think there are going to be nights where Jackson Hayes makes more sense. There are going to be nights where Jared Vanderbilt makes more sense. And there are limited minutes in that front court. If we have LeBron James and Anthony Davis locked in as starters,
I think that feels safe.
That's safe. That feels safe, right? Like somewhere between Rui Hachimura, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, Jared Vanderbilt. Like you're not playing all four of those guys. You're just probably not. So somebody's gonna be the odd man out in those rotations, and I think handling that is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I got a thought on that coming up. We'll also get a little bit into the Lakers in the West, and also Austin Reaves on the golf course. He was talking up his game pretty strongly on the Low Post podcast with Zach Lowe, and Dan has actually played golf with Austin Reaves, so we'll get some perspective on that coming up next.
He cheats. He doesn't cheat.
Too late now. You put it in the ether. All right,
No. He doesn't cheat.
All right, real quick before we get to the Lakers standing in the West, I think the big difference between Hayes and Reddish is the two guys who I think the NBA guys, the new NBA, like guys who've been in the NBA a while, who are new this year. Hayes, if LeBron or AD or both have injuries that hopefully are avoided, but to some degree are expected, that in and of itself will open up opportunities for Jackson Hayes. But if LeBron and AD get hurt, it opens up nothing for Reddish. I think that's the big difference in terms of where.
I just think it's easier. Yeah, I just think it's easier. I have an easier time telling you what I think Jackson Hayes could be good at for the Lakers than I do saying, here's how Cam Reddish can help the Lakers. Like Jackson Hayes can rim run and work on the glass and catch lobs.
Right.
He's a crazy athlete.
Yes,
get him in transition and stuff like that, right? Like that's how Jackson Hayes can help the Lakers. Cam Reddish is more of like, I mean, I think the most complimentary reviews of him would like view him as sort of like, a jack of all trades, master of none. And like those players are hard. Like that's a hard job when you have big time stars around you, because it's, I'll give you an example of a player I think who struggled with that was Talen Horton-Tucker.
Yeah.
Was a guy who like, is much more effective of a basketball player with the ball in his hand. But guess what? Like putting the ball in Talen Horton-Tucker's hand when you've got LeBron James, when you have Austin Reaves, when you have D'Angelo Russell, when you have even Rui Hachimura and Anthony.
When you had Russ at the time.
Yeah. Those are all worse options. Those are all better options. And so it's hard to kind of try to find the other slices to fit in. Now, Cam Reddish profiles as a guy who could be a really good passer, who could be like he has sort of the body of a defender. He's made some shots that stops his career, but like, it's a gamble, but only in the sense that it's like, it's a very low risk gamble. Again, Cam Reddish won't be the difference whether or not this team is, in the finals or not. If it hits, it could matter. If it doesn't hit, we're probably talking about their 12th guy.
Yeah. I don't see a direct path for minutes from either. If he has minutes, it means he really busted his ass and earned them, or I guess tons of injuries, one or the other. But
yeah.
If it's tons of injuries, it means this team went sideways and they got much bigger problems than how much Reddish is or isn't playing. Where do you think they stack up in the West right now? You and I were talking about this before the show began, and we're both pretty optimistic about this team, but wins are going to be hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, like somewhere between 3rd and 9th. Like I think is like kind of that range. I mean, like if you told me a healthy New Orleans had a better season than the Lakers, like I would say okay. New Orleans was the best team in the West before Zion Williamson got hurt last year. If you told me Memphis had the best record in the conference, I'd be a little surprised that based on kind of what they lost, but like also they had a Marcus Smart, and they're going to get Ja Morant back, and they've got good young players that are ascending. There are a lot of teams that are efforting to be very competitive. Like, I mean, Phoenix has 3 dynamic players and if they are trading DeAndre Ayton, which is like kind of been like the chatter, they turn him into 2 players. Maybe that adds some of their rotational, like in some of their depth questions. You can answer some of
Or
that.
Frank Vogel figures out how to unlock him because Frank Vogel loves big men.
Yeah. So I think, like that's another kind of like, and there's just a lot of good teams, and it's hard to say definitively like the Lakers are better than the Clippers. Like it's hard to say that definitively.
I need to see that. I'm sorry. I'm calling BS on the Clippers until I see at least one season.
Do you feel like they're definitively better than the Warriors?
Actually, I do. I think
so. Like,
because I think they have better depth than the Warriors. I think you're starting. I know the Warriors, won a championship 2 years ago,
and you should be getting in theory, a better version of Clay.
Yeah.
Now, like Clay should be. I don't think he'll ever be prime Clay again, but like he will be closer to that version. And then you add a stabilizing factor in Chris Paul that I believe him to be a stabilizing factor on this team, especially in a short term kind of role, and a team that could use a little more structure.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying, like I think it's easy to talk myself into these teams. Like it's easy to talk myself into the Clippers, which is like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George finally have good luck and they're healthy. Like it's a short pitch. And you can make elevator pitches really, I think, for like 7 or 8 teams. Like I think I'd have a hard time with Dallas maybe making that type of pitch, but like Luka and Kyrie are good enough for that to be a top 6 team.
Yeah,
those guys are offensively good enough.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have to truly outscore everyone, but if any 2 guys can provide a foundation for doing that, it's them 2. I think OKC is going.
What about OKC? What about Minnesota?
They're kind of a car crash potentially waiting to happen. Like figuring out how to make it work with Cat and Rudy Gobert may be an unsolvable problem. We'll see where it goes. If they can manage to have
Towns missed like 50 games last
I was going to say,
you know what I mean? And that's like one of those things. It's like, if that number is even cut in half, like they are a better team.
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Edwards is an absolute star, and he is, as the kids would say, he's a problem. I think that front court foundation with Cat and Gobert, particularly defensively, it's just difficult to figure out how to make that work.
Our friend Troy Brown is there though too.
Yeah, I know.
And Matt Ryan. It's like Lakers.
We'll talk about the Lakers profile giving guys a bump. Even Troy Brown got a bit of a bump going to Minnesota.
A slight raise, yes.
Slight raise, but a raise nonetheless.
I thought Troy Brown had a nice season last year.
So did I.
But no, I just think I guess my point is like, look, I think I can pitch the Lakers being better than any of those teams too, which is LeBron and AD are healthy. They build on what they did in the second half of the season, and they're a defensive monster with tons of depth and, a team that's growing and moving in the right direction.
Reaves said
for them too.
Reaves said on the podcast with Zach Lowe before we get to the golf that he thought the Lakers may be the most talented team in the league. I think you can make a pitch for it, like in terms of just pure talent. That doesn't necessarily mean the best, because best and talented isn't always the same thing. But their talent, top to bottom,
Boston, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Brogdon. I mean, obviously injury issues with Brogdon, Derek White. That's a pretty good one. Horford, Robert Williams.
Yeah, no, it's good.
But like the Lakers is. I mean, you're right. And I think when Austin said it, I was listening to the pod today too, and I kind of had the same sort of like, is it? And then it's like, but like the fact that you're not like, it's not right away,
right?
I think is like that's the argument. Like, there's space to have that argument.
You can make the argument. I'm not saying definitively one way or the other. And again, most talented doesn't necessarily mean best, but their roster is quite skilled. Like, it is a really skilled group of NBA players. Like the top 10 guys on this team, top 10, top 11, they're all like NBA players. Like, they're going to be guys who feel like they should get playing time and are justified in feeling that, and they're not going to. Like, that's how many options Darvin Ham's got to work with. Reaves also said on this podcast, he was asked by Zach Lowe who the best golfer in the NBA is. And Reaves did not hesitate to say me. And
I'm
then
him.
I'm him. I'm him. And then Zach Lowe said that, most people would say that it's, Steph Curry, to which Austin Reaves in so many words said, did I stutter? You've actually played with Austin Reaves.
He's very good.
Is he that good?
He's very good. I have played with him twice.
Ooh.
And I don't think I played with him. Well, yeah. I think I've written 2 pretty big Austin Reaves stories, both involved rounds of golf at some point. And he didn't play great either of those rounds. And I know I don't remember what he shot the first time, but he didn't play great when we played in Vegas during Team USA training camp, and he broke 80. And he missed a lot of shots and stuff like that. And I think I might have even been up after 2 or 3 holes, which is not good.
You and I have been to top golf together, Dan. You can crush.
I'm no good.
You can crush the ball.
But he pounds it. I'm 40, 50 yards. He pounds it. I think we played one hole, a par 5 that I think he went driver 7 iron.
Oh, wow.
He hits it. Really smooth swing. Look, he's got a golf TikTok, Hillbilly Bogey, an amazing name, an amazing name. The fact that that's not on shirts yet or head covers is
probably
it's a real missed opportunity at this point, but I think they're working on it. But no, he's very good. I know he wants to play Steph. I've long sort of pitched people at the NBA some version of the match during Summer League, where you just take those dudes out on a course and you have them kind of you mic them up and you have it. You could play teams, you could play handicap, you play shots, whatever.
This type of stuff.
Easy idea.
It's you would see these guys because we're around them to know these guys are sickly competitive. The type of competitiveness you would see Reaves versus Curry would be off the charts.
So here's the difference between those 2 guys. I think Steph Curry is a basketball player who golfs, and I think Austin Reaves is a golfer who plays basketball.
Interesting.
I think he'd tell you the same too. It's funny. He had a game. I'm trying to remember when it was this year where he had 38 points or something like that. Had a big night, but Jordan Spieth blew Jordan Spieth is his favorite golfer. Blew a 2-shot lead, and it almost ruined his good game. He's a huge sicko. He's a sicko about golf. He's obsessed. It is very much his. To call it an outlet would be unfair, but I would encourage people to listen to the pod with Zach. One of the things he says on there is basically I'm a pretty simple guy.
Yeah. And
it is he has his, it's family, friends, basketball, golf. There isn't some weird other extracurricular, he's not in the club. He would be buying clubs. That is his, he is cleaning his clubs.
The only club he's around. The ones
is his 3-wood. Is his 3-wood, yeah.
Dan Woike, his coverage at the LA Times is phenomenal. Everybody should be reading it. You should be subscribing to the LA Times, saving journalism and all that. Dan, seriously. Friend of the show, always appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you out there at Media Day and training camp and all that fun stuff right around the corner.
All right. Looking to get some more guests during the week. Brian will be back for Thursday, and we will see everyone then.